By the way, it's not just the federal Liberals wanting to cut funding to the Environmental Defender's Office that the Albanese government is propping up. So is the Labor Chief Minister of the Northern Territory, who today asked their Environment Minister to get onto this.
Consequences for anybody who's lied, particularly around something that's so important to the Territory economy. We fund them $100,000 a year, and I've asked Kate to have a look at the contract details around that.
Joining me is National Senator Matt Canavan, the former Resources Minister and our Tuesday regular. Matt Canavan, cutting off the funding that this Albanese government is giving these activists sounds to me like an absolutely top move. Your view?
Well, it's a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer, Andrew. As you've summarised well, this particular organisation has been found to have lied to Aboriginal communities. Some of their lawyers manipulated evidence that was presented to those communities and subsequently to the court, found its way through to the court. And so how could there's just no justification here for government taxpayer funding to go to an organisation that is acting in such an abominable way. The reason the Labor Party won't do this, though, is because they are in hock to the Greens political party. The Labor Party can only govern, can only win anywhere close to a majority of seats as long as they get preferences from the radical activist Green political party. And this is a dirty deal that's done between the Labor Party and the Green movements, the Green hangers-on, if you like, that support the Green political movement. That's what this is all about. They're using your taxpayer dollars, effectively, to buy votes, buy themselves into Parliament. It should be stopped, but the only way you'll stop it is by kicking out this already tied government that's breaking promises, that doesn't seem to know what they want to do for the country.
Matt, I can't help but be distracted by your beautiful, typical Australian background. You can't get more Australian than that. Sports oval, gum trees and a four-wheel drive. What are you doing there?
Well, mate, it's what you could enjoy too if you lived in central Queensland. I'm on the banks of the Fitzroy River here. I'm actually at my son's soccer training at the moment. It's thankfully dropped a few degrees in temperature for them. And I'm standing in front of my cart, stick it up to start the Rockhampton Ring Road. Finally, we're getting that going. So thanks to all the locals who have supported that. It's a very important project. Another one that the Labor Party and Anthony Albanese tried to backtrack on. He tried to break his promise on the Rocky Ring Road, but we held him to account and it's going to be done.
Glad that you got that in. Matt, Peter Dutton, I'm talking about this culture wars. Peter Dutton was on the show last week making very clear that he's going to get into them, and I think that's great. I think that there's also a political opportunity, of course, because national identity and cohesion and immigration, I believe they're all big sleeper issues, and that sleeping is about over now. Let me play, for instance, some of an interview I did last night. We couldn't show it all, technical difficulties. An interview with two people, Frank Strasdin and Di Thorley, who police in Melbourne threatened to arrest on Australia Day for wearing these Australian flags. Frank had just stepped from a shop to investigate noise he was hearing. It turned out to be an anti-Australia Day march. Here he is.
100 metres away towards Burke Street was thousands of flags, Palestine flags, Aboriginal flags, chanting, singing. And within 2 minutes, a police officer approached me and said, "You are under arrest for inciting a riot." I said, "What? How?" He said, "With your flags on your head." I said, "Today is Australia Day, and I've just returned from the Shrine of Remembrance 21 gun salute." And he started to walk me off the middle of the road.
And these flags he's taken exception to?
These are the ones I had in my head.
The very ones you got there?
He was a big guy, the police officer, but he came up to me and he said, "Do you know there's 30,000 people up there?" I didn't even know they were there. And I said, "What, 30,000? I said, "I had no idea." And he seemed to back off then. He wasn't as angry. And Frank had said that we wanted to go to South Bank.
I felt really disappointed. I was gobsmacked as to what happened. I did walk out the shop and I stood there and they had their eye on me for another 5 minutes before I parted underneath through the arcades, under the railway station to get to South Bank.
Now, Canavan, how did this country get to that? And do you sense a wider unease about our national unity, our national identity?
Oh, I think it's a lack of leadership, Andrew, and I don't like to call them cultural wars. I think what Peter Dutton and myself and others want to do is deliver a cultural peace. We only have cultural wars because our leaders indulge a small, radical minority among us who hate our country and want to destroy everything we love. Now, you're always going to have these elements in a society. You're always going to have a fifth column, if you like. It's always thus. It's the fact that our leaders, like Anthony Albanese, are wishy-washy about their love for the country. They're wishy-washy about whether or not we should keep Australia Day where it is. And they indulge these small, loud Australians who get out and want to march on the streets. And what happens then is that seeps down to the police and other authorities who I've got some sympathy for them then are just trying to follow the leaders or so-called leaders that we have. And I think that's why, another reason why we need to kick this government out and get some leaders back who love this country and love so unashamedly and won't tolerate those who want to try and divide us, actually want to unite us together. Because I know that the stuff that unites Australians, the vast majority of Australians, far outweighs what divides us. We'll always have arguments about the details of tax changes and what have you, but we really do need to concentrate at times about what unites us, especially given the situation we see overseas, the risk of conflict. We need to make sure we can unite as Australians, and I think Anthony Albanese has proven he's not a leader that can do that.
Well, I think it's really important. I think what you said is absolutely correct. Every society, I mean, that's been with us for ages, has got people dissenting, and sometimes the dissent is worth it. But it's the responsibility of the leaders to actually stress what unites us, and that's not being done. I'd challenge Albanese to give a speech exactly why he says he loves Australia. List all the great things about Australia and do not even start or conclude anything, oh yes, but a lot of people don't, or oh yes, we got sins. Don't do that. Just tell us straight what's great about it. I bet you he's never done that.
I love Australia, but that's what they're always. It's always a but.
Correct. No, actually, the but now comes first, you know. But it's terrible, but it's terrible. I still love, you know. Come on, Matt, it's got to change.
That's true.
Thank you so much, Matt, for your efforts in this area too. It's really appreciated.